660 years ago when Ibn Battuta was here, it was one of the great ports of the world. And in fact, it was, if you like, it was the hinge of all the trade in the Indian Ocean. Calicut was the exemplar of free trade in what I would say was its proper meaning. Not free trade imposed by tariffs and international bodies and things like that. No, it was the great centre of organic free trade.
In Ibn Battuta's time, Muslim traders would set out in their dhows from Arabia and the Gulf ports of Persia and cross the Indian Ocean. They would then winter in Calicut, waiting for the favourable monsoon winds until they could make the voyage eastward in huge China-built junks. Along this trade route travelled spices, porcelain, textiles, and even Islam itself. Without this maritime silk route, Ibn Battuta's epic journey would not have been possible. The trading warehouses of Calicut look as if they've barely changed since Ibn Battuta was here. In his time, as today, the traders exported coconuts, ginger, betel nuts, bananas and, most lucratively, black gold, otherwise known as pepper.
It's got a very special smell.
Yes, okay.
It's like sort of buttery, oily, nutty, sort of cheesy smell. Ah.
I have seen pepper grains in the city of Calicut being poured out for measuring by the bushel like millet in our country.
Is the trade now as good as it was in the past?
Now there is no monopoly for India. Only exclusive in India, in Kerala, this item. Now it is available in Vietnam, Brazil, this Indonesia, Malaysia, all countries are producing this pepper.
But which is the best pepper?
Now Kerala is the best. This one best.
So it was
number one grade. This one is the number one grade.
Calicut's glory days as a world trading capital are evidently long behind her. She has failed to keep pace in a frantically changing world. Many of the young men now head to the Gulf to make their living. A mirror image of the days when Arab traders would come to Kerala to make their fortunes. In Ibn Battuta's time, Muslim merchants were drawn to Calicut by the enlightened trade policies of its ruler, known as the Zamarin, or King of the Sea. The Zamarin was a Hindu king who welcomed traders of all religions and races to his city. Astonishingly, there's still a Zamarin in Calicut to this day, living in a villa in the suburbs.
I've got to the house of the Zamarin Raja of Calicut. Now, the Zamarins are one of the oldest ruling dynasties on earth. And when I go in to see him, out of respect, I don't bow, but I do this.
Nowadays, the Zamarin is a private citizen, although he retains a small pension originally endowed by the British East India Company. The title remains, passed down to the oldest male member of the extended family, so the Zamarin tends to be a rather old man.
Very good to see you, sir. This, I think, is the correct greeting, and may I give you a modern greeting also?
I wanted to find out how the Zamarin of Ibn Battuta's day had attracted all those Arab merchants to Calicut.
The Zamarin, at his own expense, built 2 mosques in Calicut and appointed a Qazi to look after it. So there was absolute Hindu-Muslim unity. In fact, actually Zamarin's wealth came through the Arabs only.
Was there a complete separation between Hinduism and Islam?
There was absolute religious unity and religious tolerance. Everybody has freedom of worship. But public discussion of religions was prohibited.
It was prohibited?
Yes.
Between Hindus and Muslims?
Any religion, not only between Hindus, Muslims or Christians. Open discussion was not encouraged.
I think that possibly with all the problems in the world today,
Yes,
that their rule about not discussing religion in public was a good one.
yes.
The Zamarin of the 14th century also allowed Hindu girls to marry Arab merchants and thus convert to Islam. Most of the Muslim families in Calicut today are the descendants of such mixed marriages in the 14th century. Ibn Battuta didn't take a new wife in Calicut. He was itching to move on. Because of the changing direction of the monsoon winds, there was only a brief window when the journey to China could be attempted. It was time to take to the ocean with a splendid gift for the Chinese emperor. But disaster was about to strike.
It was after he'd been waiting 3 months to get a ship that a junk was finally prepared to take the Emperor of China's present. And all the stuff, the gold and the silver and the slave girls and so on, put on board ship. Ibn Battuta stayed ashore because he wanted to pray the Friday prayers. And he was going to pray them in this mosque.
I stayed on shore in order to attend the Friday prayers and board the boats afterwards. Now it is usual for the sea to become stormy every day in the late afternoon, and no one can embark. We spent Friday night on the shore, unable to board the boat, while those on board were unable to disembark and join us. That night, the sea struck the boat which carried the Sultan's present. It sank, and all on board died.
Ibn Battuta's catastrophe is not forgotten in Calicut. To my surprise, a local theatre troupe offered to perform their own Bollywood production of the traveller's miserable tale.
I was left all alone on the beach. I had nothing in the world except 10 dinars and my prayer mat. Then I saw the Zamarin, the infidel Sultan of Calicut.
തകർന്നുപോയ കപ്പലിന്റെ അവശിഷ്ടങ്ങൾ കണ്ടെടുക്കാനും പുതിയൊരെണ്ണം നിർമ്മിച്ചു നൽകാനും നാം കൽപ്പന കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. മങ്ങാടൻ ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിന് വിശ്രമിക്കാനുള്ള സൗകര്യങ്ങൾ ഏർപ്പാട് ചെയ്യുക.
So our hero was saved. Wrong. Unfortunately, the Calicut players hadn't read their Ibn Battuta properly. In reality, the Zamarin made no such offer, and Ibn Battuta had indeed lost everything.
How would you feel if you had risen to high position at the richest court in the Islamic world, when you'd had a whopping great salary and power, and then you'd been appointed ambassador to China with a whopping great present, and then the whole lot had gone to the bottom of the sea? It's the ultimate riches to rags story. And what was he going to do? He couldn't go back to Delhi and say to one of the greatest tyrants of the age, "Sorry, sir, I've just lost your present." He'd used up the hospitality of the rulers along this coast. There was only one thing he could do as a traveller, which was to take to the road again, or in this case, to take to the sea.
Ibn Battuta's next destination was an archipelago of tiny islands in the Indian Ocean. Strangely enough, the easiest way for me to get there was to fly first all the way back to the transport hub of the Eastern Hemisphere, the Calicut of the 21st century, Dubai. Dubai is the fastest growing city on Earth. A fifth of the world's cranes are at work in these few square miles. The frantic expansion is the fruit of oil-rich investors ploughing money into luxury real estate. And it's enabled by dirt-cheap labour from the very place I'd just come from, Western India.